Hello. Hey, Chris. What's up?
What's up?
I get mom. She's back here. Her Kelly told me.
Okay.
How you?
I'm okay.
You still at the same place?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Hi.
Thanks. You can jack it off.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hey,
Hey.
what you doing?
How you doing?
I'm okay.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Where are you?
I'm Solo County.
You still in the same place?
Yeah, it's all the same place.
Okay. Okay. Oh, darling. I did not know you didn't receive our letter till a few days ago.
That's alright. Just like,
Had no idea.
you don't need to like overnight stuff because they still have to like, go through it.
And there's some bad stuff coming out. And I think there's really a lot of bad stuff that Frankie and Sandy and everyone has said about us. Really bad. But we're going to deal about it. We'll deal with it. But they said your dad has substance. Here, tell him. Oh, no, you tell him.
Okay, well, they're just saying a bunch of stuff that's not true.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that's not true. And
We're just going to let them do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on now.
There's like stuff that was said before or stuff like now.
No, it was stuff that was evidently some things from the past, whatever, but they're saying substance abuse from me and Jamie moving in and out and all this stuff. She was a rebel and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
And they're telling whatever else.
Was it stuff like was going on in the case before or stuff they just like are saying now?
We don't know. They're going to go on CNN Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and with the DA. And they're going to just say, I don't know what they're going to say. Frankie's been saying things on his Facebook that we've just only begun, and I don't know what that means. And Jamie's been getting threatening emails and phone calls. And these people are crazy. Some of these people are crazy, but I've got I've got so much support from so many people. I just wish you would have.
Just let them say what they want to say.
They can say what they want to say. We don't care. We support you. We love you, and that's all that matters. I hope you know that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But
Stuff wasn't happening though.
I know, honey. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Hey, don't worry about us.
Don't worry about us.
Just take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself and be safe. Please be safe. Please be safe, because I just can't deal with this if you're not safe.
You'll be safe, honey.
We just want you to be safe.
You will. You will, honey.
We love you so much, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for you. Nothing.
Just remember, we're always here.
We're always here for you.
Okay. Tell Jamie I'm sorry that's happening too.
I know. It doesn't matter to her. She just wants you to be okay.
I know, but I don't want Robert or kids to get involved with it either, as far as like people trying to get to them either. So
I know.
That's what we're working on.
We're working on that, but I don't agree to anything. I don't agree with anything that woman said that day. She talked off the top of her head. Everything was manipulated, and we were intimidated, and all of that stuff.
Well, it wasn't our story.
It wasn't our story. None of it was.
That's what you're talking about the other day. She was lying. You're talking about her, right?
What are you talking about?
And when you said you knew that her statements wasn't true, or whatever.
Which one?
Were you talking about Nicole? Were you talking about
Yeah, Nicole.
Okay. Nicole. Okay.
That's fine. What that lady said, Jean said that day, was not what we said.
We didn't say anything that she said, and it broke our hearts.
I was talking about Nicole stuff, the paper, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
Okay, it was.
I was talking about that stuff, because all the stuff that came out the other day was kind of debunked all the stuff she said. So.
I know. Yeah. I know.
You're talking about Jean. I'm not sure which one you're talking about with Jean. When Jean said that we accepted that you did it and all that stuff.
No, we did not. We never did. All we wanted to do was get in the courtroom and give our statement and tell you how much we loved you.
I'm gonna have to go now.
And then I thought that you didn't.
I have to go.
Oh, you gotta go?
Yeah, I gotta go.
I'm sorry.
Time is up already.
Already?
Yeah, I gotta head back in, so.
Okay. I love you. Please call us again. Okay.
Try to call us tomorrow again.
If you can. Bye-bye. I love you.
Bye.
An inmate at Well County Jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2. If you would like to, thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
What up?
What's up?
Ooh, outside cooking a turkey.
Outside cooking the turkey? Said you're outside?
Well, but we're deep frying it in the thing. That's why we're outside. Inside, your mama knows that.
Oh, okay.
Hang on a second. Hang on just a second. Alrighty then. What's that, folks?
It's easier to connect this time, huh?
Get on. Hang on. Put it there. Get on.
Oh my God.
Hang on. Yes.
Hey, hon. Oh my God. We're so happy to hear from you.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. We love you. We believe you. Chris, I love you. I love you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, you guys.
And no matter what, we believe you and we want you to fight. No matter what. If a lawyer comes up to you, take it. Take it. Okay, we'll slow down. We'll slow down. I know we only got a few minutes. I just want to get everything we need to get out to you. This is Joanne. I love you and I believe in you wholehearted. We all do. And you were railroaded. Oh my goodness. We love you. We love you, Chris. We love you.
Love you too.
We love you more than anything.
We're all
okay?
right. We're all right here.
We're right here, and don't you give up.
I got to calm my mother down a little bit.
Hey.
Yes.
Hold on. I'm trying to get. I know you're on speaker, but we love you so much, and we just want you to. This is not the end of your story. I just believe. I believe so much. So please do whatever you need to do to find your voice, and just do what you need to do. Okay.
Okay.
We love you. And I love you no matter what. Either way, I love you no matter what. Okay? All right, I'm going to let you talk to Mom and Dad, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Hey.
Don't give up, please. Do you promise me?
I know. I'm staying strong. Don't worry.
You have to, because there is so much support out there for you. No one told you. Did you ever get our letters?
I just got it today.
Today. Of all days, you got it today. Unbelievable.
Overnight is what? Picking out.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's the thing, whenever you send letters, you have to screen them, and they have to, all that kind of stuff, because people send, contraband through, the mail. They gotta screen them, and I think people even got so, even so sneaky that they were putting, drugs behind stamps, so they gotta make sure everything's kosher before.
There was nothing there, Chris. There was nothing there, but we didn't send anything back. We didn't send anything. I thought that, when you didn't call us, I said, you just didn't want to talk to us, and, I had to do everything I had to do to get in there to talk to you. I did whatever I had to do to talk to you. I listened to whatever they had to say to me. But honey, I never believed it, any of it. Just know that your mama's been fighting for you. I have been on Channel 7, Channel 9 in Denver, the Denver Post, everybody. All right, now let him talk. Okay. All right, we want to hear your voice. We just want to hear your voice. Yeah.
It's all right. I've read all the stuff in the paper, so.
There is so much out there, and there is so much support out there. You don't know how much support is out there for you.
They released some 2,000 pages of everything during the whole investigation. Everything, a lot of it's.
They had nothing.
They had nothing, a whole lot to go on. They have a theory.
That's all they had was a theory.
Yeah,
they had nothing.
All that stuff from the other woman. So.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Hey, they have. It doesn't matter.
What they released actually helped with that. So.
Yes, it did. Yes. What she said and what they pulled off your phone was good. Chris, let somebody come talk to you. Yes, let somebody. All we want is somebody. Let a lawyer come talk to you. Request one, Chris. Not we have. Request one. Someone is going to come and talk to you.
Yes. He's got to okay it.
He's got to. But you have got to okay it. We can't do anything without you okaying it. Our hands are tied on the arm, and we support you 100%. You're going to get out of here.
I don't know how. I think these are like 10-minute calls or 5-minute calls. I'm not sure, but they'll tell me when I have 1 minute left. But it's what time do I have on that?
You just keep calling us. And I don't know what happened to the $50.
No, I was just how much time I had on my hour out still.
Oh, we put $50 on a card, and now there's no $50 there. It doesn't matter. That don't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. All right, Chris, talk.
How did Bill's gymnastic competition go?
Oh. Don't worry about that right now. She did good. She got lots of medals. She fell off the balance beam, but she got back up and she kept going. Okay? But we just want to hear about you.
I know. I was just curious. I guess the last time I got to talk to you guys, so I was just curious.
You're gonna make me cry today, so don't do that. We're waiting for you to call.
And Amy still got contact with Jamie.
Amy still got contact with me. Okay? Yeah, but not with us. Okay?
Yeah, she told me she was able to that you texted her and she was able to respond to you and everything.
Yeah, she was able to contact Jenny, but she can't contact us because, we just went on that victim thing just so we could, just so they could talk. So we could talk to you.
On with the legal thing, though, whenever,
Yeah.
They're barred from doing that.
I know.
They can't really do anything with that.
When they go to
somebody's represented by a lawyer, and when they have a client, they can't, they talk to me about you as another.
I know.
When they're going to move you to the evaluation center?
It could be tomorrow. It could be Monday. It could be 2 weeks from now. They never tell you. They just kind of show up and say you'll show up. They just kind of take you.
Will you be able to stay in contact with us?
Yeah, it'll be we're this evaluation center. I'm not sure how their operation is there, but I'm sure I'll be able to get time out and find a phone somewhere. I'm okay where I'm at.
How does it go with all the
So. Go ahead.
I think it's over by the airport. Evaluation center. So.
Will you consider fighting? Will you consider it?
I'm gonna stay strong. I'm not losing any faith. Just I got my Bible with me, and that's I read a lot of it each night. And if I get down, it seems like the next verse is kind of waiting for me to read. So.
Well, please consider fighting. Please consider it.
A lot of people after that, all them 2,000 papers come out today.
They have nothing.
A lot of people's questioning a lot of things about this case.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot.
Yeah.
I know. I'm not sure why they released it, but they released it. I was sitting here. I was told what was in it. And I was just well, maybe they were just. I don't know why they released it, but.
Honey, they had nothing. Yes, honey, they had nothing. Nothing.
They have a theory, that's all
they had a theory, and that's it.
They have a whole lot to prove it.
I wish we could have talked to you these last 3 months. I wish you would have called us.
But he couldn't.
I know that they wouldn't let you, but you don't do everything everybody tells you to do. You have to go to cut.
It's just
You got to go with what you feel is right.
I would have, if I would have called and like while everything was going on. I mean, all these calls go straight to the district attorney.
Oh, I know. We know that.
They were
All we wanted to do is say we love you, support you, fight. That's all. That's it.
It's just a matter of like the DA. I mean, the district attorney. They were watching me like a hawk. I mean, every letter I got, even if it was from some crazy person or if it was from someone that I knew, like it was scanned and it was sent over to the DA like before I even got it.
I know. We just want you to know we're behind you.
Yes.
And that we support
We support you 100%. We know what she was like. Okay? We just love you. And they can record all they want.
I know, but just remember, like she was a wonderful woman too. Okay.
We know that.
Like, I don't want the lasting memory of anybody to be like something that was.
None of it.
So sweet.
None of it should have happened. None of it happened. None of it. Okay? We love you.
I don't want anybody's memory being negative because she was wonderful.
No, it's not, honey.
You are
It's not.
I understand.
It's not. But we just don't want your last.
Yeah.
We don't want you to be forgotten in this either.
No.
We're fighting for you.
You have 1 minute left.
1 minute
All right, we got 1 minute left.
So we are fighting for you. That's all we care about right now.
Time left.
Oh, we got 1 minute
1
left.
minute.
So
But
I love you, sis.
I can call you back. I can actually hang up and call you back. I got a little bit more time.
Really? Okay.
Do it.
Okay.
We'll
bye.
finish this minute out. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
All right.
The caller has hung up. At Well County Jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hello.
What's going on?
Hey.
Watching Panthers lose one.
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Watching the Panthers blow one here.
How are you?
They're losing?
One of us is tied. It's tied right now. Let's see. They had very beginning of the game. They had a 4th and goal or whatever it was. 4th and to get a first down. They come up like 6 inches short, and then they had a pick in the end zone. So that's 2 touchdowns they missed. And now Gano just missed a 50-yard field goal with in the 4th quarter. Now the Seattle's going down there and get a field goal to win the game.
Oh no, that sucks.
Yeah.
Mark wants to know if you can call him.
I don't have his phone number.
Well,
I can get it for you.
just get it right quick.
See if I can get it.
Okay. And the next game, have you got access to TV today?
No.
Damn it. Okay. Well, the next game's Pittsburgh at Denver.
I was wondering if it was going to be shown over there.
Yep, that's the second game that's on here.
Yeah, if I'm still here tomorrow, I'll call you and you can tell me what happened.
Okay, I got it set to record. In this game here, the Panthers should be up by 2 touchdowns right now. Gano just missed a field goal, so that's...
Mark Jameson, do you have a pen and paper?
No, I don't have access to that.
Oh, darn.
I have to go up memory or just wait until I get to where I'm going from here.
Okay. Honey, how are you doing?
I'm alright. I'm hanging in there.
You know when they're going to move you yet, or don't know?
What's up?
You know when they're going to move you?
It's could be any minute, any hour that gets you soon.
Anytime, man. It's no set thing, nothing.
Where are you at now in the jail?
Just random place.
They keep moving you around?
Yeah, so, yeah, it was just, me and Stan had tickets to the game today. So,
No, you didn't.
yeah, network had us, he had tickets for us. Yeah. But just kind of every little date comes around, you know. Just kind of like.
Things your kid be doing?
Oh, honey, I'm so sad. I just don't know how to get out of this package.
Take time, buddy.
I just don't know how.
I know.
Yeah.
We love you so much.
Still got commissary stuff, or you used up all that?
I used that back. I used that stuff up because I figured I wouldn't be here much longer. So
Yeah.
You still got some stuff in there, or?
Well, I mean, I have stuff I can use, but I used up all like the cash to buy stuff, so it wouldn't be hanging around because it couldn't transfer. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go ahead. You got everything you get on
You just let us know what you need.
I will.
Whenever you get where you're going, what you can have, so we can get it to you. What all they're allowing there as far as anything.
Please call us every day if you can.
Yeah, whenever I get a chance, I will.
Please.
And all the time during the week, I won't be.
The DRTC place is temporary, so.
Yeah. But depends on what times you can get out when you get moved or whatever, because like you call it now, during the week I'll be at work. So I got to put some other stuff on there, 10 or 2, so always one of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
God, we miss you so much.
Right?
You miss it, that's too bad.
I just miss you so much.
You guys do.
Everybody's doing good. Everybody's been.
Mark says he loves you. And he believes in you. And there's a girl named Kim Kaufman that wants to write you. She's really been helping us out a whole lot.
Who is she?
She is. She's been talking to Mark. She's just someone that befriended us a long time ago when this happened, and she has just been such a staunch supporter.
She lives in Utah, but she has a lot of her relatives that actually work in Weld County.
Yeah.
As far as
no prisons in Colorado.
She has someone that's in the police force there.
And she
believes in you. She fights.
I mean, there's so many people out here that believe in you.
And fighting for you.
That's good. That's good to know.
Oh, you got a lot of support.
She do.
So much support.
A whole lot. And we're sorry about yesterday bombarding me about everything.
I know, we're sorry. Yeah,
I know that stuff.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bombard you with anything until I can come to see you and be able to talk to you face to face and everything. And just
hopefully give you a hug or something.
Yeah, it would be wonderful just to give you a hug.
Depends on where you go and how they're. I'm not sure how things are when you get to the.
But promise me you'll be careful.
Yeah. I'll be careful. Yeah. Trust me.
Have you had anybody coming to see you from your attorney?
Not this weekend. Most of them were out of town this weekend.
Amy's still coming to see you, right?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. Was it Thanksgiving she was there?
Yeah, she was here Thanksgiving morning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she had a couple things she was doing with her daughter this weekend, so she said if I'm seeing her on Monday, she'll come see me.
That's good.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's good. And your sister sends her love.
Yeah.
And her support. And her support. Robert and all of them.
Oh, we all just love you so much.
I just let them know I'm sorry about all the emails and the phone calls they've been getting. So.
No.
Don't even worry about that, dog.
Don't worry about that. We're strong. We can handle whatever anybody puts out there. I don't care. I know who you are. I know the kind of man you are.
They don't know the person.
They don't know you. They don't know us. And there's haters everywhere. But tell you what, there's
a lot of support.
There's a lot of love too. I've received so many letters from such wonderful people.
All over the place.
All over the place. and thousands of messages on my messenger that just support and love you. And
ever since the documents come out, there's a whole lot of people questioning a whole lot of things.
A whole lot of stuff.
I know.
The whole case.
A whole lot of stuff is being questioned.
I know.
And so do we.
I mean, I don't want to get in it on the phone, though.
No, just know you got a whole lot of support, a whole lot of love.
You better believe it.
A whole lot. Even a little bit loves you. You don't love me. Even a little bit loves you. You don't love me. You try to bite me, don't love me.
He tries to bite everybody.
Yeah,
I know. He does. He does.
yeah.
No, just hate that all this. I don't know what to say anymore. I just want you to know we support and we love you, and we will do anything you want.
We'll do it, man. We'll do it.
You ready to take it all on? We'll take it all on. Because that woman in that brought us that victim's rights, so we could get in the courtroom and talk to you. Nothing that she said was correct. We had no idea she was going to say all that stuff. None of it. None of it.
Once you read that or see it, whatever else.
I was horrified when we got home and her trying to talk on our behalf. I text her a message and I said, do not talk on our behalf ever again. I said, this was not what the way it was supposed to be.
She didn't explain any of that stuff for us. She got over there and said she was going to talk off the top of her head, which I thought she did.
Yeah, and she was in the DA's pocket. So.
If you ever see the thing, remember what she said, that is not nothing we agreed with.
No, none of it.
No, it didn't. Nothing paper was said about what she said, so.
No, nothing she said was correct.
No.
We
just got her.
We just felt like we were in enemy territory.
We was there. That's the reason we used her so we get there and talk.
We just wanted to talk to you, and then when you didn't get my letter, that I had overnighted, when you didn't get it till just the other day, I didn't know what to think anymore.
Yeah.
I was thinking you just didn't want to talk to us.
Yeah.
And I mean, did you ever receive any of our messages? And
Amy and stuff, I know she did.
I mean, I guess Amy. I mean, are you still there?
It's November 11th, so. But I didn't get it till November 23rd, so.
I know. You didn't get our letter. And then I didn't know what to think anymore.
Yeah.
I figured you just didn't want to talk to us.
No,
and the attorneys wouldn't let us talk to you. Nobody would let us talk to you.
Well, that's pretty normal across the board for attorneys not letting people talk as far as that.
Everything's recorded and anything's said out of the way, so.
Well, there's nothing wrong with just saying to your son you love him, you miss him.
I know.
That's right. That's. I'm glad you got my letter now, though.
Yeah.
They don't want people like lose their emotions and just kind of like flip out and say, "What happened?" Stuff like that.
Oh, I know, and I know you wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You
have 1 minute left.
Okay. We've got 1 little minute left to tell you. Talk about the game.
Introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Cindy Watts.
Ron Watson.
Thank you. I have authorized you to make a statement to the court as paternal grandparents of the children. And if you choose not to make a statement, but your designee, Ms. Powers, chooses to, she can do so as well. How would you like to proceed today?
I read that? Yeah, do you want me to start? I want you to start, but I would like to read
Who's going to be speaking today?
Your Honor, initially, they've asked me, and they're hoping that they have the strength to speak, but if they do not, they've written out their statements and asked me to finish for them. So
That would be fine. Who would like to go first?
if I could start, Your Honor. On behalf of the Watts, Your Honor, and to the community, we thank you for the opportunity and the recognition under the Victim Bill of Rights. We come today as the grandparents and the parent of the daughter and children whose life was taken in this case. We are not here to ask for leniency. We are not in any way condoning or tolerating the crime that has occurred and the pain that has been caused. We join in our daughter-in-law and grandchildren's family in saying this should never have happened. This is not condonable. This is something that we will never get over. We appreciate the consideration that everyone has paid, most especially the families that have lost everyone. We appreciate that they begged for Christopher's life. We agree and echo what they have said, that it is not his place to take anyone's life, nor would it be our place as a community to take his life. So we thank you for the opportunity and for every consideration and effort that's been put out. The prosecution in this case has in fact respected the Victim Bill of Rights. They took the time to explain that the information that my clients had at the time that they were interviewed was not correct. They were misinformed. They were searching for answers. They were not intending to cause any pain to anyone, and they appreciate that the prosecution answered their questions and gave them the time and the respect and the consideration so that they could tell this court and everyone in this community that the interview content was not their message, that they accept that their son has done this, that they accept that he chose to plead guilty, that he sought and requested their consent and agreement for a life sentence. They appreciate that he is given the opportunity to serve that life sentence. It is his responsibility, it is his sentence, and it is not enough to make up for what has done. We understand and we join the family in that we have questions. We don't know how such a thing could possibly happen, or that a man that was responsible for raising his children and protecting his wife would take the steps that he did, and that he would disregard their bodies and the love that he had for them and they had for him and everyone else, and take the gestures and put this community through the investigation and the discovery and the responsibility of bringing justice. We do not understand that. We do not think it was appropriate. We cannot begin to think that an explanation will ever justify it. My clients indicate that they understand that a full opportunity for a confession with all of the responsibility and accountability has not occurred. And they support the family and the request that that happen, if not today, at an appropriate time, in an appropriate manner, so that everyone can have peace, to understand to the best of their ability the details that they need and to have their questions answered. And by giving this opportunity of a life sentence, we hope that he embraces that moment. That had the death penalty been pursued, there would not have been an opportunity to be accountable and to give a full confession. And had the death penalty been sought, counsel would have fought for his life, the prosecutors would have been engaged in a multiple-year battle, the families would have been torn apart, this community would have had to subsidize it and endure it, and we have so much respect and gratefulness that that did not happen. We would strongly encourage Christopher Watts to give that full confession in the tone and in the timing that he thinks is appropriate with the guidance of his counsel. We feel that it would be appropriate and helpful to ease the pain and the suffering. But we also say we don't think that there's anything that he can say that will ever account for his behavior. There's nothing that can be done to cure the harm he has caused. And he has the responsibility to serve his sentence with dignity and with regard for everyone, and to spend every breath that he has left in an atonement for what he has done. Do you want to read it?
Yes.
So if I could just have you state your name for the record.
Cindy Watts.
Thank you.
My name is Cindy Watts. I am the grandmother of two beautiful granddaughters, Bella Marie, Celeste Catherine Watts. I am also the mother of Christopher Watts, who I will be directing most of my statement to. First, I'd like to begin by recognizing the absolute horror of this crime and acknowledging the devastating loss that both the Rusek family as well as our family have faced. Our families have been irreparably broken by the needless deaths of Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico. This is something we will never get over. We will always mourn the loss of our family, and in that we are united in our grief. I am still struggling to understand how and why this tragedy occurred. I may never be able to understand and accept it, but I pray for peace and healing for all of us. Now to my son Christopher, I have known you since the day you were born into this world. I have watched you grow from a quiet and sweet, curious child who Bella reminded me so much of, to a young man who worked hard in sports and later mechanics to achieve your goals. You are a good friend, brother, father, and son. We have loved you from the beginning, and we still love you now. This might be hard for some to understand, how I can sit here under these circumstances and tell you, although we are heartbroken, although we can't imagine what could have led us to this day, but we love you. Maybe you can't believe it either. As the Lord said in Jeremiah 3:31, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, I have continued my faithfulness to you. And you, as your mother, Chris, I have always loved you, and I still do. I hate what has happened. Your father and sister and I are struggling to understand why. But we will remain faithful as your family, just as God remains faithful because of his unconditional love for us all. We love you, and we forgive you, son.
Thank you.
Judge, if I could read Mr. Watts' statement.
Yes.
My name is Ronnie Watts, and I am the grandfather of Bella, Celeste, Nico Watts, and I am the father of Shannon. I am the father of Christopher Watts as well. And one of the most important things I've done in my life is to raise my children and to watch as they started their own families. I spent many years coaching Little League and talking to my son, taking him to the races, and sharing my love and knowledge of cars with him. He was just as involved with his girls. I believe he loves his girls. I know he does. This tragedy has impacted my family in so many ways. Beyond losing my precious grandchildren, our beloved daughter-in-law, we are forced to question everything. We still don't have all the answers, and I hope one day, Christopher, you can help us. Chris, I want to talk to you as a father and son. You are here today accepting responsibility, but I want to tell you this now. I love you. Nothing will ever change that, and I want you to find peace, and today is your first step. The Bible says if we confess our sins, God is faithful and just and will forgive us. Chris, I forgive you, and your sister forgives you, and we will never abandon you, and we love you. Dad. Judge, thank you for the opportunity to address the court.
Are there any other? Mr. Mr. Walsh, would you like to present any evidence?
We have no evidence, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, is there any statements you would like to make on behalf of the prosecution?
Yes, please. Your Honor, there are no words to adequately describe the unimaginable tragedy that brings us before this court today. By my comments, I'm not even going to try to express the horror, the pain, or the suffering that the defendant has caused to these families, to this community, and to all who were a part of this investigation. However, I do want to spend a few minutes sharing with the court the details of the crime, as so far you've only had an opportunity to review the affidavit and a few facts here and there that have been offered to the court in the motions and pleadings that have been filed. The questions that have screamed out to anyone who will listen since August 13th of 2018 are why and how. Why did this have to happen? How could a seemingly normal husband and father annihilate his entire family? For what? These are the questions that only one individual in this courtroom or on this planet knows the answers to. I fully expect we will not receive the answers to these questions today, nor will we at any point in the future. I don't expect that he will ever tell the truth about what truly happened or why. Even if he did, there is no rational way that any human being could find those answers acceptable responses to such horrific questions. The best we can do is try to piece together some kind of understanding from the evidence that is available to us. And the evidence tells us this: the defendant coldly and deliberately ended 4 lives, not in a fit of rage, not by way of accident, but in a calculated and sickening manner. Shanann was 34 years old. She had married the defendant in November of 2012. Over the weekend leading up to August 13th, she had been at a work conference in Phoenix, Arizona, and returned home in the early morning hours of August 13th. We know that she got home about 1:45 in the morning. The doorbell camera on their home shows her arriving back home from the airport. Shortly thereafter, at least according to the defendant, they had what he referred to as an emotional conversation about the state of their marriage and about what their lives would look like going forward. What was said during that emotional conversation, only he knows. What we do know is that shortly after that, the defendant strangled her to death with his own hands. We know that he slowly took her life the morning of August 13th. We know that this was not done in an uncontrolled, vengeful manner that he tried to describe to agents from CBI and the FBI. If that were the case, you would expect to see vicious, horrible bruising about her neck, shoulders, and face. You would expect to see the hyoid bone in her neck broken. You would expect to see some kind of defensive wounds on his body as she struggled and fought for her own life. None of those are present. The only injuries that were on Shanann's body were one set of finger or bruising, what appeared to be fingernail or finger mark bruising to the right side of her neck. We know that our experts will tell us that it takes 2 to 4 minutes to strangle someone to death manually with their own hands. The horror that she felt as the man that she loved wrapped his hands around her throat and choked the life out of her must have been unimaginable. Even worse, what must Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3, must have experienced or thought as their father, the one man on this planet who was supposed to nurture and protect them, was snuffing out their lives. They both died from smothering. Let me say that again. The man seated to my right smothered his daughters. Why? Imagine the horror in Bella's mind as her father took her last breaths away. Your Honor, understand very clearly, Bella fought back for her life. The frenulum, the connective tissue between her upper lip and her gum, had a centimeter and a half laceration. She bit her tongue multiple times before she died. She fought back for her life. as her father smothered her. Celeste had no such injuries. In fact, she had no external injuries at all. But according to the medical examiner, she was smothered nonetheless. The defendant then methodically and calmly loaded their bodies into his work truck, not in a hasty or disorganized way. He was seen from the neighbor's doorbell camera backing his truck into the driveway, going back and forth into the house and back out to the truck 3 different times, 1 time for each of their bodies. He then drove them away from their family home 1 final time, intent on hiding any evidence of the crimes that he had just committed. In one final sign of callousness for his wife, his daughters, and their unborn son, and their remains, he drove them to a location that he thought no one would ever find them, to one of the oil tank batteries with which he was so familiar. He knew this was safe. He had texted a coworker the night before saying, "I'll head out to that site. I'll take care of it." He had carefully ensured that he would be alone in the middle of the plains to secrete away the remains of his family in a place that he hoped they would never be found. In one final measure of disrespect for the family he once had, he ensured that they would not be together, even in death, or so he thought. He disposed of them in different locations. He buried Shanann and Nico in a shallow grave away from the oil tanks. Bella and Celeste were thrown away in the oil tanks at this facility. Different tanks, so these little girls wouldn't be together in death. Imagine this, Your Honor. This defendant took those little girls and put them through a hatch at the top of an oil tank, 8 inches in diameter. Bella had scratches on her left buttocks from being shoved through this hole. A tuft of blonde hair was found on the edge of one of these hatches. The defendant told investigators that Bella's tank seemed emptier than CC's because of the sound that the splashes made. These were his daughters. Significantly, when his co-workers arrived at the tank battery later that morning, to a person, they all described him as acting completely normally. It was a normal workday, even while his daughters sank in the oil and water not far away from him. And then his efforts at deception truly began. We've all seen the emotionless interviews that the defendant gives to the local media, asking for help in locating his family. We watched as he claimed that the house was empty without them, and that he hoped that they were somewhere safe, and that he just wanted them to come home. He told investigators that they were at home sleeping when he left for work that morning, and that Shanann had told him that she was taking the girls to a friend's house for the day. What is striking about this case, Your Honor, beyond the horrors that I've already described to you, is the number of collateral victims that he created by his actions. While he stood in front of TV cameras asking for the safe return of his family, scores of law enforcement officers, neighbors, friends, and family scoured the area, fretted for their safe return. They texted him begging for any information and sending him their best wishes, all the while he hid what he had done. The list of indirect victims does not end there. Think of the firefighters and the Colorado State Patrol hazmat experts who had to don protective suits and who were called upon to pull Bella and Celeste out of those oil tanks. Or the coroner employees who had to conduct these autopsies. Or the victim assistants who frantically attempted to ease the suffering of those affected. All of this, Your Honor, for what? Why? Why did this have to happen? His motive was simple, Your Honor. He had a desire for a fresh start, to begin a relationship with a new love that overpowered all decency and feelings for his wife, his daughters, and unborn son. While Shanann texted the defendant over and over again in the days and weeks leading up to her death, attempting to save her marriage, the defendant secreted pictures of his girlfriend into his phone and texted her at all hours of the night. While Shanann sent the defendant self-help and relationship counseling books, one of which, ironically enough, was thrown in the garbage. He was searching the internet for secluded vacation spots to take his new love in researching jewelry. And while Shanann took the girls to visit family in North Carolina, the defendant went to car museums and the sand dunes with his new girlfriend. The stark contrast between the subjects of their internet and text content is absolutely stunning. Even the morning after he killed them and disposed of their bodies, he made several phone calls. One was to the school where the girls were supposed to start, telling the school that that the girls would not be coming to school anymore, that they were being unenrolled, presumably to give him some more time before law enforcement notification about them going missing. He contacted a realtor to start discussing the selling of his house, and he texted with his girlfriend about their future. None of this answers the questions of why, however. If he was this happy and wanted a new start, get a divorce. You don't annihilate your family and throw them away like garbage. Why did Nico, Celeste, Bella, and Shanann have to lose their lives in order for him to get what he wanted? Your Honor, justice demands the maximum sentence under the agreement reached by the parties. As you will recall, the agreement calls for life sentences as to Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, and all of those to run consecutively to one another. It also calls for the count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy as to Nico to run consecutively to counts 1, 2, and 3. I would suggest that the extreme aggravation present in the defendant's conduct and in the efforts that I have described mandate that the sentences for counts 7, 8, and 9, the tampering with a deceased human body, each be the maximum of 12 years, and that those sentences run consecutively to one another. It is very clear that each of these acts, that these were not the subject of one act, but each oil tank that he walked up with his daughter's bodies and the hole that he dug for his wife and unborn son mandate a mandatory consecutive sentence. It's been alluded to this morning, but the defendant was certainly eligible for the death penalty in this case under the existing law in the state of Colorado. As you heard, Shanann's family strongly opposed my office seeking the death penalty and being bound to the criminal justice system for the next several decades. That's in large part, as you've heard, why we have reached the agreement that we have. 4 lives were lost at the hands of the defendant on August 13th for reasons that we will never fully understand, nor will we know. In the end, the Rusick family was much more merciful towards him than he was towards his wife, his daughters, and his unborn son. Prison for the remainder of his life is exactly where he belongs for murdering his entire family. Thank you.
Are you seeking 91 days to file a request for restitution?
I am, Your Honor, please.
I'll grant that request. Mr. Walls, will you be speaking on behalf of your client?
Your Honor, Ms. Harold.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Harold.
Good morning, Your Honor. Mr. Watts has asked us to share this morning that he is devastated by all of this. And although he understands that words are hollow at this point, he is sincerely sorry for all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watts, as I indicated when we began, you have the right to make a statement if you choose to. Would you like to make a statement?
No, sir.
Thank you. So the court has considered the arguments made by the attorneys. The court has considered the statements made by the victims in this case. The court's going to find that the plea agreement is fair and reasonable under the circumstances. I want to acknowledge the Rusick family as well as the Watts family that showing mercy on Mr. Watts is understood, and I respect that decision to request that the district attorney not seek the death penalty in this case. And so the court is going to accept this plea bargain under the circumstances. Words that come to mind when I hear the evidence in this case are a senseless crime and the viciousness of the crime. And equally aggravating in this court's determination is the despicable act of disposing of the bodies in the manner in which they were done in this case. I've been a judicial officer now for starting my 17th year, and I could objectively say that this is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen. And nothing less than a maximum sentence would be appropriate, and anything less than the maximum sentence would depreciate the seriousness of this offense. So the court is going to sentence Mr. Watts as follows. With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to counts 4 and 5 relating to Bella and Celeste as a different theory of first-degree murder, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and legally those sentences must run concurrently as a different theory of first-degree murder. Recognizing the unlawful termination of pregnancy for the unborn child that has been named Nico, the court absolutely believes that the maximum sentence of 48 years would be appropriate to run consecutive to the other charges, with an additional mandatory parole period of 3 years as set forth by statute. With regard to count number 7, as it relates to tampering with a deceased body, as well as counts 8 and 9, each a class 3 felony, the court is going to impose a maximum sentence of 12 years each for those counts to run consecutively to the other counts. The court is going to order that the statutory fees be paid and court costs. The court's going to grant the prosecution 91 days to file a notice of restitution, and that will be the sentence of the court. We will shortly be in recess. I would respectfully ask the parties that you remain in your seat. There is a plan by the deputies on allowing people to exit the courtroom, so please remain seated until you are authorized to leave the courtroom based on the direction of the deputies. Deputies, I would respectfully ask that you take this defendant into custody and have him serve the rest of his life in the Department of Corrections. We are in recess.
Please rise.
It's just so hard to get through it. I just don't know how to get through it.
Tell me about his childhood. Did he play sports? Was he in scouts? What kinds of things did
Yes,
did
he
do?
played sports. He played sports from the time he was 5 years old. up until he was 17. And he was in basketball, he was in baseball, he was in football, and loved NASCAR. He and his dad went to the NASCAR races all the time. Loved sports. And he was a good kid. Had 2 best friends, and that's who he grew up with, and still are friends with them today. And there's nothing that would have predicted any of this could have ever happened.
Yeah.
Nothing in his childhood at all. I would have never in a million years thought something like this could happen to him at all.
You didn't see things like him getting into fights? Or...
No fighting. He was quiet, and he got along with people, and he didn't start anything, and he was a perfect teenager, to tell you the truth. He did not even rebel. He wanted to go to NASCAR Tech. We made that possible for him.
What did he do after he finished school?
He worked at the dealership as a service technician and was making good money and loved it. He bought a toolbox, and he started buying his tools, and enjoyed it. He was doing well.
When and where did he meet Shanann?
They met, and he liked her, she liked him, but it didn't, I don't think it was love at first sight or anything. They took a little while and I guess got to know each other and, dated. It was always a little strange that she always said a lot of things about Chris in front of me that I didn't like. Like, this isn't the kind of person I would date. He doesn't know how to do this, or he doesn't know how to do that. He looks like a skater boy. Look at his hair. Look how much stuff he puts on his hair. It was just on and on and on, and I just got a bad feeling.
And they got married in 2012. Did they get married in North Carolina?
They did. Mm-hmm.
How was that?
We didn't attend.
Really?
Mm-mm. We didn't attend because Shanann and I just couldn't get along, and I didn't like the way she treated him.
What do you know about their marriage and their issues?
Oh, very little, very little. You can only observe. I could only observe what I saw when I was around them. Christopher always seemed anxious, and he when she needed something, he would run. He wouldn't walk, he would run, he would get it. He just always seemed to be right there at her beck and call.
And did that seem odd to you? Or?
Very odd. It was very odd. He just seemed nervous.
So how much did you see them over these last 6 years?
Probably twice a year. We would go up there.
Did you stay with them, or?
Yeah, we would stay with them, and stay a week, and then come back home.
Tell me about Bella and Celeste.
Oh, Bella was just like Chris, just like him, shy, cautious, conservative. Cece was a ball of fire. She was fearless, completely fearless. She just loved to run. So they were wonderful. It breaks my heart to know that they're not here. They were beautiful children, beautiful children.
What did they call you?
Mimi.
Mimi? And how about Ronnie? What did they call?
Papa.
Do you think Chris loves Shanann?
Oh God, he loved her. Yes, I believe he loved her at first. I believe he did. But I think as the years went on, I think it just being in that kind of a relationship, which the social worker even said that marriage should have ended a long time ago.
Shanann's pregnancy, and what did Chris tell you about that? Was he excited?
No, I don't think he was. I think it was a shock to him. And he said that they have been talking about divorce, that they are not compatible anymore, and he was not happy anymore. And I finally thought he's finally seen the light.
And I take it Chris had never been in trouble with the law?
Never. He's got one speeding ticket and didn't even know about that.
Tell me what happened when they were reported missing. What did you find out? How did you find out? Who told you?
I think Ronnie called me. Ronnie called me and said that they're missing, and I thought, I don't believe it. I didn't believe they were missing. I believed that she was going to punish Chris. She was just going to punish him, take the girls and just punish him. I had no idea of anything else. Christopher called and said, Mom, they're searching the house. I said, okay, that's fine. I mean, and I still was not worried. I was not worried. I just thought Shanann had run off with girls.
So walk me through the sequence of events over the next few days. Did you and your husband travel to Colorado?
Ronnie did.
Okay.
Ronnie did. And I mean, Christopher let everybody come in. Her phone is there. Her purse is there. Everything is there. But there's no kids and there's no Shanann. And I was not worried. I thought, she has just gone off and I'm going to punish you for this and you can worry about me. But when Christopher called us and he said, I said, do you want us to come down now? He said, tell Dad I need him. Tell Dad I need him to come down. I said, what about me? He said, no, Mom, just stay. Just send Dad. And he picked him up at the airport and they drove to the police station. And Chris still didn't say anything to him. Nothing. He had already been interrogated 7 hours prior to that. He had already let the police go into his home, search everything. He was going in for another interrogation. The next thing, after 5 hours, they called Ronnie and said that your son wants to talk to you before he tells us anything. And that's when Christopher broke down and cried and said, I'm sorry, Dad. He said, I went into a rage and I killed her after she killed Cece and Bella. And he found out where he is and then they wouldn't let him see him. He couldn't see him. And so he was going back to the airport when his public defender called him and told him to come back. And that's when Ronnie met his public defender. And so talked to her for a while, and they kept in touch with us and let us know what's going on.
And then what was the next update that you got? Was it?
The next update I got was Ronnie called Jamie and told them they found their bodies. And they rushed over here. Nobody told me anything until they walked through the door. And they told me what happened, and I just fell to the floor. I just fell to the floor. It was unbelievable. And it's been unbelievable ever since. And
what did his attorneys tell you about contact with him, starting with his
none.
arrest?
No contact. Everything is recorded. No contact. No letter writing. I didn't see the harm in the letters. Hi son, love you, keep fighting. We are here to support you. What is wrong with that? What can the DA do about letters like this? Why couldn't we just write him a letter? We did what we were told to do. When they called us to tell us that Chris was thinking of a plea, that he wanted to speak to us about it. And when we got down there, it was a lie. They wouldn't let us talk to him about anything. And then we had to talk to him through a screen and a phone. And he just looked, he was crying. I mean, he wasn't crying. You could see the movement in his mouth that when I talked about Bella and I talked about Cece and the memorial service that we had for them. And he asked what pictures did we use, and what was the song. You can see how he was trying to hold back tears.
What day was that? Do you remember?
Well, we flew in on that Monday. We flew in on Monday, and we saw him Monday night, and then the plea deal was on Tuesday.
So Monday night was when you wanted to talk to him about
it? Yes, and we weren't allowed. And it would have helped us so much to be able to talk to him. I wouldn't have to go through all this now. Everything just seems to be shrouded in secrecy. And just tell us what is going on. Let us ask Chris if it's okay if you talk to us. I just don't like the way it was handled from the very beginning. I don't like the way it was handled. I want to save your life, that's all. We're just here, we're going to save his life. We want him to get life in prison. It was like they already knew he was guilty. And this was the end of it.
Were you worried about the death penalty being a possibility?
No, I didn't care about the death penalty. Nobody's going to die in Colorado. I don't think anyone has, one person? And Colorado is changing. So people stay on death row forever. There was I think you'd be safer on death row. And her parents said they didn't want any more death. So I don't see how the death penalty could have mattered. All I want is the truth. I just want the truth. That's it. And I know Chris, he would take responsibility. And I guess maybe he is. I don't know. I just can't see him doing that.
What do you think the truth is about how Shanann, Bella, and Celeste died?
Oh, God, I don't know anymore, honestly. I don't know his frame of mind, and I don't know his frame of mind. Because why would you plead guilty to something you didn't do? And that's all I want to know. Why would you plead guilty if you didn't do it? If you told your dad you didn't do it? And that's what I want to know. And they said, well, you'll find all that out. Christopher will talk to you when and after he's sentenced. Well, isn't that too late then? I mean, isn't it too late? What if he tells me, no, I didn't do it? I just took this plea deal because they told me I was going to go to jail anyways. I just want the truth. All of us just want the truth. That's all. But I would like to know what triggered it. How can a normal young man, and he's normal, he was normal, but he wasn't evaluated when he came into the system. He wasn't normal if he did this.
It must be bewildering.
It's bewildering to me. It is absolutely. How does this happen? How did this happen? And I go back in my mind thinking, was there something I didn't pick up with on Chris? But I can't think of anything except he was quiet.
It sounds like in your own mind, you're unsure as to what happened.
Yes.
Have you reconciled the idea that he could have done all of this?
Yes. And that scares me to death. It scares me to death to think that he could have done all of this. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there right now. But I don't see why he's pleading guilty. I wouldn't. I'd fight. I'd fight to the end. But then you ask yourself, would a normal person dispose of the bodies the way you did? And I would have called 911 if it happened like that.
What would you say to Chris right now if he were sitting here?
If we were by ourselves,
Yeah.
I would say, Christopher, I need to know what happened that night. I need to know what happened. I've got to get these thoughts out of my head, what I think could have happened, but I need to know. And I think in time he will tell me.
Probably nothing you ever would have imagined you would have faced.
Never. Never. No, and not from the son that I raised and Ronnie raised and our children, you know, we just did everything for them. We worked for them. We wanted them to have a good life, good education, and we stressed education. And they were both doing well. I thought, you know, I knew marriages can be bad, but you can get out of them and go on. But I don't know what was going through anybody's mind that night. I mean, I feel too much. I mean, I definitely feel everything way too much and have a conscience that I just feel way too much.
What do you want to happen now? What would you hope would happen now?
Well, I want Chris to have his day in court. I mean, I need to know. I mean, I'd feel wonderful if I could talk to him and he could tell me what happened. And then we can all go on. But if he didn't do it, if he did not do this, then I need somebody to defend him. I need someone to defend him if he did not do this. Do they have the evidence? He's my son. I got to do everything I've got to do everything I can to help, to make sure that he is defended properly. But he said this was his decision, so I don't know. There's doubt. I have doubt that he did it. I can't see that he did it. I just cannot see him doing that as much as he loved his girls. How do you do that? I just don't see it. I just can't see him doing it. I just wanted to make sure that he has, I just wanted a defense. I wanted him to be defended.
And you haven't had any discussions with his attorneys about this?
No. I asked them, do you know what happened? They said no. We don't. Only person that knows what happened is Chris. Well, then he's told you his story, you know, in the affidavit. They said they would defend him if he wanted to go forward, but he said he didn't want to go forward.
And the bottom line is you would have liked to have been part of that discussion with him before he made that decision.
That's what I thought we were going down there for. At least let us talk to him. Let us talk to him. It would have made all the difference in the world if they would have just let us talk to him. If he was going to do this, what difference does it make who's listening? But he has our love. He has our unconditional love. I will never abandon my son. He did a horrible, if that comes to pass that he did this, then I still love him. He's my son. And I will always love him. And a lot of people don't understand that. And I don't understand that, why they don't.
Well, could you talk a little bit about some things we talked about yesterday? You said, you know, I think your exact words were, he's not the psychopath next door.
He isn't. He's not the sociopath next door. He's not the psychopath. He didn't kill little small animals. He didn't do any of these things. He was a good child. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything that was abnormal about him, except he was socially awkward. You know, he had trouble socializing, but so did I when I was younger. I think you learn that as you grow, and I think he felt a little bit more comfortable in his skin, and he just, I don't think he just had the right person at his side. I don't. That relationship was toxic from the very beginning.
What would you say to Shanann's family if you could talk to them?
God, I'm so sorry this happened. You know, for both our families, because we both lost everything. You know, they lost a daughter, we lost our son. We lost our grandchildren. We all lost. Everybody did. And you'll never get it back. And they were precious. They were so, so precious.
Silly monkeys.
Jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor, and the doctor said, "No more monkeys jumping on the bed."
That means you too, Cece.
Oh, silly monkeys.
Jumping on the bed. And one fell off and bumped his head. And Mama called the doctor, and the doctor said, "No more monkeys jumping on the bed."
One silly monkey.
Silly monkeys.
One silly monkey.
Silly monkeys. Jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped